Here's what I mean. I'm going to show you an example about this one. Okay. This is a post that's been going on in the internet these days. And I love this because the way it's been written. We start by saying, we look at this picture and say, meet Mr. Muzammil, who earned so far, it's all fine. As you go over here, we start 120K in one day. Think about that. That's a hook. People who are looking to make money, 120K in one day, that's a big hook. It's a big claim. Now, let's see how he shows that by selling his father's Honda CD70 without his permission. Now, that example, you can clearly see how he made 120K. You can say, oh, okay, I see that, right? That claim, the claim he made of 120K in one day, the hook, was fulfilled in the same sentence, in one sentence. And that's what keeps people hooked to reading information on social media. So when you think about writing your own resume, obviously we were not going to say we sold our father's Honda CD70 without his permission, but we're going to write stuff about ourselves that make big claims and also show some examples. Okay, let's revisit my headline. Developed large multidisciplinary teams. Now look at that. Right, 20 plus years of scalable software solutions. That was less interesting. Over here, if I'm applying for head of engineering, a director of engineering, a VP of engineering, those positions, this tagline is more suitable for my role. It's also very interesting. It's going to set me up apart from the other people who manage teams, I manage 5 for Fortune 50 companies, right? It just keeps on getting interesting. After you read that first line, then you go towards the next one. Leveraged AI. AI is a buzzword these days. It's also applicable to almost everything we're doing. We'll use AI today as well. So leveraged AI to optimize Azure core infrastructure. Here's the information they're giving. Now they already know the Fortune 50 companies, because it's telling, but it's not really describing what those companies are. Now they're getting to know, oh, one of them is Microsoft because he worked at Azure core infrastructure. It's also telling them this guy isn't a user of cloud computing. He designed cloud computing. He knows cloud computing. Then let's go to the next one, which is about a polyglot technologist, cloud computing, SaaS, and big data. Now, what's happened? I took a bunch of relevant keywords where my expertise is, and I added the end. And I'm also using a wow word, a word that people will say, oh, wow, I like that word. And over here, it's polyglot technologist. Like over there, previously I had a word called, that's also a buzzword over here, multi-domain. People can start thinking it. But I like the word polyglot technologist. If you give this word to ChatGPT, by the way, it will give you like 10 different other variations that you can use yourself. So this is a good way of saying, hey, if you're a polyglot programmer, for example, right, you can use that and say C++, Java, and JavaScript, maybe if you want to. Or if you want to position yourself as a full stack developer, but in mobile and web, you can use that as well. Okay, let's go towards a software engineer. And while that was the headline, I want to continue this in the experience section. I want to quickly do a time check. I want to go faster now. So you can apply the same. Now let's look at this guy's resume. Zero downtime. First of all, orchestration and insights. That's a group. Why is that information important? Like, who knows that? Now, if you're applying within your company, maybe that's important. But if you're applying publicly, who the hell cares about this group, orchestration and insight, and nobody knows that. Now, let's go to the other part. Zero downtime for OMS services. I have no idea what is OMS services. For seamless rollover from N to N+1. Let's dissect this a little bit more. When you do a rollover, you are going from version 1 to version 1+1. So that's what the person wrote. He defined the definition of rollover. Uninteresting. To make it interesting, make a big claim. Zero downtime, swift rollover services under 5 seconds. There's a story behind that. When somebody reads that, they're going to think about, I'm going to meet this person and ask, how did they do it? What happened over here? There's a story to be told. Okay. The first one, there's no story. The first one is just a blanket fact. It looks like you're just filling out your resume like this over here. Let's look at the second one. Load throttling API for read servers. Okay. What do I do with that? Why is that interesting? You can do load throttling, big deal. Load throttling API Accelerated server boot up by 40% with a load throttling API. How did you do that? I mean, I can think about load throttling, but doing a boot up by 40%, that's a big claim over here. So when you make these claims so you're telling and you're showing, the person is getting more and more interest in your resume. This is what the resume looks like after this section, after we have changed that. Let's read this a little bit over here. Engineered robust, fault-tolerant services, enhancing production system resilience, and seamless large-scale operations. You know, from this line, I can just tell you this person is an SRE, a DevOps, and something like that. Now my mind is stuck in that, okay, I'm going to evaluate them as an SRE. Zero downtime, swift load services under 5 seconds, load throttling API, feature flag overrides. Now, this line is not mentioned anywhere over here. Turns out it was in one of these things. I forgot where it was, but it was in one of these things. And we all know what a feature flag is. And then using that, they said they boosted performance and maintainability, right? An SRE who can use feature flags to do that. Amazing, right? The story is making sense. I can picture them doing this work with me. Over here, I could not. It was just, you know, uninteresting facts over here. Over here, these are all interesting facts. Along with, I can put them into a, this person must be a great SRE as I'm reading it. Now, I want to mention two more things over here. You notice this says senior software engineer and this one says staff software engineer. For some reason, this person was hesitant to put the word staff over here, even though their title was staff engineer. Second part, they were revealing too much. We all do this. We put June 2017 to current. Why not put the date, man? Like, why not say 3rd June? Why give so much information? You go into this resume, you start realizing this is very uninteresting, very flat. Led the stores engineering group. Okay, so you led a team of engineering group for stores. Improved, not an exciting word. Item availability. Okay, that's like a buzzword in your specific industry, like Walmart maybe. Using robotics, using robots and machine learning. Okay, these are two good words that we have. But what's the impact? What happened here? Like, okay, you did this, but it's not interesting. It's not giving me an excitement looking at this resume. Look at the second one. Digitized stores with remotely controlled pricing labels. Seriously, you just did pricing label changes and the store was digitized. Then saying reduce theft with RFID. I mean, it's just, while there are buzzwords over here, it's just becoming uninteresting and uninteresting. Even in the last one, it's establish an offshore team in Bangalore. Sure, okay, so people think it's a big thing to establish an offshore team, but it's stated in a very unexciting way. Okay, now last part is the most interesting one. A director at Walmart engineering, and the person is writing a stack. What stack they use? Why? Because my team uses stack. Am I conveying that I use this stack to code? No, I did not. If they ask me questions about it, I'm going to fail. Let me show you what I did after the changes. First of all, I was also not putting this word senior over here. I thought, hey, you know what? Data engineering is fine. If I put too much over here, startups won't hire me. Because, you know, they'll think this guy's too experienced and they would come. Primary leader responsible for predicting, receiving, and stocking US stores inventory. Says a lot more than led the stores engineering group. It tells you exactly what you did. And it's saying primary leader. That's how it's starting. Now, as you go forward into that, look at the first headline, developed a multidisciplinary team. Now I'm fulfilling my promise over here of 250 plus engineers, product owners, engineering managers across 4 time zones. It keeps on getting interesting and interesting. You see that? 4 time zones. It's telling how big the team was. Now I go into it, achieved 1.6 billion year-over-year labor cost reduction. Now, this makes me a businessman, right? But I'm an engineering manager. So I'm going to continue doing that reduction through AI and computer vision integration. I don't want to go through the whole thing, so I'm just going to list it over here that all of these things are tied into the same way, you know, generate 2.1 billion revenue with digitization, robotics. Now you're going to go complete. So as you go from top to bottom, one tip is that you want to start with the most interesting fact, the most interesting hook that you have, and you want to go down in that list, more relevant. Let's look at the last one. Founded a proficient 40 plus offshore product engineering division in India. Very different than saying establish an offshore team. It's like, I just did this work. Over here, I'm proud of this work. It's also when the person starts reading information, they start thinking, they start picturing you, they start imagining you. And that's how you're writing a story. Okay. I want to finish this section on interview very quickly. AI is reading your resumes these days. And what it's doing, think about if I give this resume to AI and say, hey, you know what? Tell me if this resume qualifies for a leadership role. And you can use the same your resume and give it to ChatGPT, and it will tell you exactly what your rating is, what you can go and improve upon that. Now, it won't give you this format, by the way. So when you finish this format, give it to ChatGPT like I did, and it will give you some feedback about, like it did over here, clarity and AI experience. A lot of times places I've mentioned that, but it wasn't that clear. So I went back and I modified it, I reiterated, and eventually it gave me a 9 out of 10 rating. So that's how you can write your resume and submit it so that systems that are using AI will pass your resume to the hiring manager as well. So in summary, I want to make sure that you guys understand, make it easy for the eyes to read everything. Make it like a bullet list. Like this summary slide is an example. It's quite easy to read when you look at it like this. But if you write a paragraph about it, it's very hard to read. So keep bullets. Use a font that's simpler to read. Use hooks, and the most important part is that you don't want to have a quick version. If you have a quick version, like you bold things and stuff, like think about if I just bold over here ChatGPT, your eyes will always be going to ChatGPT. You will automatically ignore all of this. And that's what bold does. It says, hey, while I wrote all of this, this is the important stuff. And then you look at that, which says Java, and then boom, they don't look at anything else. Okay. If you just mention, for example, $2.1 billion and nothing else, they see you as a businessman. You get it?